I'm the president of United Catalyst Corporation. I'd like to welcome you to ARA University's Crash Course on Converter Recycling. Here at United Catalyst Corporation, we try to get recyclers the most from their converters with a process that they can trust. We call it the 4 P's of converter recycling profitability. A process you can trust, a program you can trust, a partner you can trust, and the power of education. Here to introduce a process that you can trust is Richa Lulsdorf.
Hey guys, my name is Richa Lulsdorf. I work for United Catalyst Corporation. Today I'm going to talk to you about our process. What does that look like? So at United Catalyst Corporation, we believe that we give you the most for your converters with a process that you can trust. Our process in general looks like we ship it in, we decan it, we mill it, and then we take a representative sample of your load, and we're able to determine the true value of your converters. And that's what makes us different. So once you've decided to do a load with us, we receive your shipment here. We take each individual box, we weigh them, take a picture of them, and label them. As we check you in, you will be in our portal, and the information as to where your load is, where your boxes are, will be at your fingertips at all times. After your information has been put into the system, what happens is each box is here, and we count each individual converter. Typically, you will have given us a count of how many you had in your facility, and then we do a recount just to make sure that the converters that you sent us are the ones that actually end up here in our facilities.
So this is the decanning stage. Our production workers take the catalytic converter, they split it open, and they remove any and all of the catalytic material. Then they sweep up their stations, making sure that any extra dust and material is accounted for. Once they're done with that, any scrap steel or insulation is also removed from the material going into the mill. Our dust collectors ensure that any of your dust is part of the material that gets processed.
Once we've decanned and crushed your converters, what happens is the material inside, the precious metal content that you find within the honeycomb, is brought here. This is where we then mill the material. It's taken up and ground up into a powder, and that we then take a sample from, that we then end up testing for ppm content. Okay, so now we've successfully moved your material from the warehouse to our lab. This lab exists because we want to ensure 2 things: accuracy and transparency. Using assay testing, what we do in our lab is we take a representative sample, and we're able to see exactly how much your converter is worth. So the difference between the traditional method and assay is mainly this. You know, you might still be using the local guy that comes around with a pickup truck and pays you for each individual converter. What we do here is when you bring us your load of converters, we decan, we mill, and then we sample. So we take a representative sample of your converters, and we're able to look at that content and determine exactly what the value of the precious metal content is for your load of converters that you send in. Okay, so once we have finished evaluating your sample here, to ensure that we are 100% accurate, we send it to a third party to get tested as well. Then, from there, we of course send your sample to the refinery, where then the final assay is conducted, and we get the final assay results sent back to us. To make sure that the refineries are held accountable, we have that inspectorate sample that we can then compare the assay results. So again, the end goal here is to get you the most for your converters. So when you win, we win.
Hi, my name is Gary Wilkins, and I'm excited to have the opportunity to share with you some elements of the program that we have at UCC. I'm the account executive and also a supplier relations manager. And to begin this conversation, I just wanted to share with you the importance of the chain of custody. It's just a very vital piece of what we do here at UCC, because it involves 7 very important steps and specific steps that we use to be able to oversee and process your converters. In the beginning, we account for your material once it arrives. We then dismantle it, then we decant it, then we mill the material, then we take a sample of your material, then we have a lab to where we do an assay, and then we provide you with a final settlement based upon the findings that we got from the smelting and refinery. In the end, our goal and objective is, as your partner, is to assure that you're getting the most for your converters with a process you can trust. We're going to talk about a comparative count. Does your company that you're working with provide you a count for the number of converters that you have before they process your load? We believe it's very important that there is an agreement on the count between you and also your recycling company. One of the things that we provide for every load that comes in is a delivery confirmation, which gives you a report which has photographs of all your boxes sitting on scales to give you the weight of those boxes, and then we also do a physical count to match that up with your count. And there is definitely some human error at times, so it's not real uncommon to be a few off, plus or minus, in the count process. But if there's any more than a few, then we typically will do a recount just to make sure that that our count is accurate, and it gives you a quality check as well on your end from the dismantling process. We also provide a count sheet in this delivery confirmation, and it gives you a detailed breakout of all the different types of converters that you have had in your load, which would represent whole units, half units, the ceramic converters that you have, the wires and the foils, also the diesels, and also the DPFs and any empties. So it tells a story of your load in that report. This portion is on weight report. Does the company that you're working with provide somewhere on either the assay report or final invoice showing all the different weights of your load? We just feel like that it's very, very important that you understand where all the weights are derived in a report, and we provide that on our final invoice. For example, in a load where you have dust through the decanting and milling process, the dust can represent just 1% of your load, but it can literally be based on 10% of the value of your load. So it's just really important that, again, you understand that. Also, in the decanting process, there is inert material that's in the converter, and so it's going to represent a loss of your materials. So when you're looking at your load, you probably are going to have between 1 to 3% of a loss of there's insulation that's in the converter, there's webbing, there's wires, and some steel that takes up some weight. There's also moisture in the catalyst, and through the process of what we do is we put it in an oven, and we take that moisture out because it gives you a much more accurate read in terms of the assay results when you pull that moisture out. So again, the percentage should be maybe 1 to 3% of loss, and if for some reason you were to have more than 4%, we feel like that's something that you ought to question. This portion is on mass balance. Does the company that you're working with weigh everything, the arrival load, and compare that with what's done at the post-processing? Typically when converters come in, they're in a Gaylord box on a pallet, and they're shrink wrapped. And all the boxes that come in, that should be the arrival weight. in terms of your load. Once we go through the decanning process, then we are weighing individually your catalyst, your dust from your load, the inert material that was in your load, as well as the packing material and also the scrap. And what's very important is that the variance of those two weights should be less than a half of 1% in terms of that arrived and then what left. This section's on verified sample and assay of your material. Do you work with a company that collects all uncontaminated and representative sample of your material being assayed? Because a properly collected sample is paramount in making sure you're getting paid the right amount of money. The entire load, the decan material and the dust, your entire load must be milled and free flowed into a sampling system so each particle has an equal chance to be properly sampled. Does your company get paid on the sample that's done at their facility, or is it one that's been collected and analyzed at the end refinery or at a third-party independent lab? Most important, we just feel like that recycling companies should share the official assay results with you for the basis of what your payment is. And now we're going to hand it back over to Becky to discuss about having a partner that you can trust.
Another very important aspect of converter recycling profitability is finding a partner that you can trust. First of all, are the results that they're giving you accurate and able to be verified, if necessary, by a third party? Are they teaching you how to understand your price per converter, your price per pound, and the number of pounds per unit? If you know this, then you'll understand your yard profile. You'll know by the cars that you're buying, how many cats per vehicle that you have, how much you're averaging per unit, and then how many pounds per unit you're averaging on assay. If you know these things, then you'll know if you're missing weight. If you're missing weight, you're missing money. The second thing is the partner that you're choosing trusted by others. Recently, a recycler said to me, good people should do business with good people. And that's true. Does the company that you're working with have a strong reputation in the industry? And are they a common referral from other recyclers to you? The most important thing about finding a partner that you can trust is the company you're working with doing the right things? Are they doing the right things financially and environmentally so that nothing can fall back on you and your customer?
Hi, I'm Alan. I work in the lab at UCC. I've been around automotive catalysts for probably about 47 years now. Been in the automotive industry in exhaust repairs for 40 years plus. I want to bring to your attention, being in the lab for the last 3 years and the amount of testing we've done, we've come to the conclusion that we found that the automotive industry is starting to change where they put their O2 sensors. And it's all to do with the quality of the converter. This is a Subaru that I'm holding here, which you're all familiar with. Its design and structure. The Subaru O2 sensors location are very important to tell you the value of the converter. This converter is the main converter for this car. The exhaust enters in here and here, travels across into a Y section through this one converter, which is 3/4 of a pound. And these are Hondas here. This is a Honda slant. As you can see, that the O2 sensor does not come out straight, it comes out on a slant. Very common today, you see a lot of these. Great value in this one. This here is in a Honda, what they call the straight. And there's great values in these, and you need to be well attentive to how you sell these, because without the shields on them, they look like little coffee cans, I would say. This one here, I took this one out of the pile just to show you, if you can do a close-up on that, how close they actually bring the O2 sensor to the catalyst converter. And there's a reason for that, and it's to protect the converter itself. They don't want it to melt down. As you've seen some cars, if you've ever taken them apart, they're actually melting inside. They get too hot, and that's to protect that. That actually will adjust your air and fuel mixture. If your car's got a skip, running poorly, that's what melts it down. Too much fuel, the oxygen sensor cannot correct that. And if I can bring your attention over here, I'd like to show you something over here. There are a lot of varieties of Hondas. These are all Hondas or Acuras. You can see this slant. This is without the shield, and it kind of got no numbers on this. You're not going to find a number to identify it. In the industry, it seems like they're counting the ribs, or just calling it a slant. Here is one high-value converter. I believe this one's called the coffee can, if I'm not mistaken. It's got an O2 sensor right here and right there. The value right here, high value. Okay, this does have some great value too, but it's protecting this converter right here. And as your inlet. And as you can see, it goes on. This would be a Honda straight. And here's a newer one. This is off a newer Honda. It's got the O2 sensor there now and here. And you notice on the older ones, they didn't put them on the front. They just put one in the center. But this still has great value. Same thing with this one. Only one O2 sensor in the center. It's called a slant. And these are great values. There's one that's just within in the center as well. And these are also Hondas. These are all great value converters. They bring a good yield to you in the industry. Some of the things I'd like to point out to you in the industry is how you pull them off cars. If you can see inside of our boxes here, we do a count, a physical count when you drop off the product. But if you do a close-up in here, and you can see how they rip them off some of the cars with their claws. They just actually physically crush the converters to pull them off. They rip them off. And I can understand that you're in a rush, you got to get the job done no matter what, and you're bound to do it. But what I want to bring to your attention, sometimes when they're crushing them like that, how much is going on the ground when you pull these off the car? There's no attention paid to that. This is an empty converter pretty much. It's got very little in it, if you can see inside. Very little. And it's all because it's been ripped off the car instead of cut off the car. It's very important to try to save as much of the product as you can when you're removing them from the car. It is great value to you. It's something you should be concerned about because today's market with the industry and the steel prices dropping the way they've dropped, you can see how these are all just physically crushed and removed from the car, and you do lose the product. I mean, this product here, most of it will be caught in the bottom of the box, done correctly. In shipping, if you get close up right there, you'll see the bottom, the very, very bottom. You'll see the product is right there. It's important to cover the bottom on your boxes when you're shipping them, and to save, because we're going to collect that. We're going to tip the box over and put it to your load. So it's very important. And you can see at the industry how converters have been playing. You got the aftermarkets, which the aftermarkets look so good today. They're almost representing a good value of the OEM equipment, but they're not. But they look like they could be. And that's some of the deceptions you get in the industry. Like this would be an aftermarket. I don't have a Ford presently on my hand here to actually show you an OEM. Yes, I do. This would be the OEM to a Ford. This would be an aftermarket to a Ford. Very little value, and this would have great value. And you can see that you can go on and on and on with different converters, as different style converters. You can see this is an older GM where it only had one O2 sensor located behind the converter. So it was actually reading everything that came through the converter and telling the computer how to adjust for everything. But these had great value as well. These were older converters, high in platinum, which was good. If you go through the loads and you see different cars and knowing what the O2 sensor actually does for the exhaust system, how to adjust fuel and air mixture, you notice that when they started bringing them closer together to the converters, as we test them in our lab, we found out that the platinum, and it wasn't as high, but the palladium and rhodium were higher. on those particular converters. And when we found out that the converter itself, internally, the biscuit, has become smaller. It used to be, this would be representing a little over a pound of each, and now we're getting 3/4 of a pound, sometimes a half a pound in some of these converters. But the loadings are really high, and the identifier that I can tell you should be using when you see the O2 sensors very close to that converter, there's a reason for it. They're protecting the converter. That's all they have to do. That's what the O2 sensor does, protect the converter. We've tested these converters extensively. We've done brand new from the manufacturer. We've tested those, and we've tested the ones coming off the market. Obviously, as the car wears and the car gets older, some of the pressures may leave, very little, but they come close to what OEM was, and it's been a real good learning curve for these. And the O2 sensors are very important to these cars to identify the converter itself. To give it a value, a street value, is pretty tough to do, but there's a lot of converters out there and a lot of different manufacturers, a lot of different cars, and no one has the number. But I tell you, assaying a converter and selling on assaying is proven to be the best way to sell your converter. It is the only way to do your converter at the total end, is to recycle these and sell them to the assaying and get the value out of them that way. It is great. It is the best way of doing it. It becomes all your product at that point.
First of all, I'd like to thank Ginny Whelan and ARA University for allowing us to bring you this short course on converter recycling profitability. I hope today that you've learned a few things about what makes converter recycling profitable for you and your company. First, you want to make sure that you have a process that you can trust. Second, you want to make sure you have a program that you can trust. You want to find yourself a partner you can trust. And then with the power of education, no one will be able to take advantage of you ever again when it comes to recycling your scrap catalytic converters. Thank you again. I'm Becky from United Catalyst Corporation, and it's our pleasure to partner with you.